Hello, I'm Father Louis Scurti with Friends of the Word. We thank you once again for joining us as we give you a little insight into our personal history, and the hour is Father Bob Schecker and Louis Scurti. We were classmates and roommates at Seton Hall University for 2 years, and then moved to the major seminary, Immaculate Conception Seminary in Darlington. And now we're picking up at our previous interview. During the course of living at Seton Hall, besides my mother coming to the park and bringing us food and lasagna and all that good stuff, we were able to, especially on our breaks, meet each other's families. Do you remember that? I mean, I loved your mother.
Well, she's a piece of work.
Wild woman.
Yes.
Wild. You got a lot of spirit from her.
She's the kind of woman that you didn't tell her what she couldn't do.
Oh, no.
If you might recall a brief story when we had those recollection days on a Sunday.
Right.
Where you had no visitors
Right.
at all. One of the guys came to my room and said, "Your mother is here." You got to be kidding. So I go downstairs. They're hiding her behind a coat rack because she's not supposed to be there. "Ma, you can't be here. No one's going to tell me when I can and can't come and visit my son." "Okay, Ma, fine. Now let me escort you to the car so you can leave." So it was that kind of a character.
Yeah.
And as you said, we mentioned our families. I recall going to your house. Your home was in the Holy Rosary Parish.
Yes,
in
Jersey
Jersey
City,
City.
yes.
And your basement was a rival to the Sistine Chapel in Rome.
Good memory.
Yes.
Wow.
I remembered the layout of your altar, shrine,
Yeah.
statuary, and everything else that went with
Wow.
it as you were.
Just to fill you in, I didn't play with those dolls at that time when I was an adult, but as a child, I created little altars, like every Italian household has them, little altars, and from that time, throughout the years of childhood and into high school, it grew and grew and grew. My family said, as long as he's quiet, he's down in the basement. And I literally took this much of the room.
Oh, yeah.
And we had everything, little statues of everything from popes to bishops to altar boys to choir boys to nuns and everything.
It was like a mini church. It was what we now call the domestic church.
Yeah, it was. That's interesting. That's what you remember. That's fascinating. And then we'd go upstairs.
And mange. Always mange.
Oh my God. My mother's kitchen was about this big.
Tiny place.
All table.
But food was superb as usual.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
She was a great cook.
Yes.
And again, talk about us being similar in background, different nationalities, but my mother broke the rules just as well as you. She was Sicilian, so definitely no one was going to tell her what she couldn't do. As you remember, on Tuesdays was the Dean of Students' day off. And Dean of Students was, well, he was a Gestapo. I mean, pure and simple, right?
Right.
When he left the seminary, people loved him in the parish. I'm not going to use his name, but he was a very gentle man. But as a disciplinarian, he was.
Well, he was fulfilling a role
Yeah.
that at the time was in place from decades
Yeah.
of administrative presence of the clergy at the time.
Right, and they had to be
governing a seminary.
Governing. That's a great word. Governing the
Governing the
seminary.
seminary.
It wasn't. The seminary had a lot of positive aspects to it, but that was one of the negatives. So on a Tuesday, sure as anything, my mother would come up with Uncle Joe and my dog and bring lasagna and wine and
Bread,
food and bread.
Italian bread.
And set it up in the picnic area, and then we'd go through the woods and bring the leftovers back home.
Right. And had a good time. It was all part of the real world,
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
we were living in a kind of a bubble to some extent.
Yeah.
And as you may recall, we had all these rules and regulations, and you had to have everything so nicely neat in your room. And I got in trouble because I put my pants over the chair one day. And I got in trouble one Christmas time because I put Christmas lights in my bedroom window.
Right.
I got called down for that. I said, Christendom is about the light of Christ, I thought.
Yeah.
This is a seminary. Why can't we have lights in our window? We don't do that here. Okay.
Now, this is a horrible story, but I have to tell. It's the first time I'm telling it publicly. Do you remember on Sundays, this is in the seminary, this is the second 2 years of our college life was in the seminary. On Sundays, we would have two masses.
Oh, yeah, the rectors.
The early one.
It's called the rectors.
The rector's mass,
And
because
then
he
the
would,
community.
he would say it. And the rector's mass, all you had to do is dress up and be there. You couldn't participate, you didn't receive. And for me, I'm sorry, Jesus, but it was a facade. It was such
Can never figure that out.
bizarre. Okay, you had to be there, but the community mass was 11 o'clock, in which we dressed up and choir. That was beautiful, and even guests would come to that. But so the vice rector, the dean of students, would go around to every room and knock on the door and push it open to make sure you weren't in there. You had to be at the 6 o'clock mass. Now, in my whole life, I'd never wake up in the early.
Well, we're all in a coma.
Yeah. So I figured, this is what he's doing. He's opening up the doors to make sure no one's there. So I got an extra pillow, an extra blanket, and put it under my bed. Pushed the bed a little bit from the wall, messed up the bed, opened the door just slightly, and I'd hear him walking down the hall and open the door. Never answer, of course. I was sleeping, and I'd roll over and sleep for another hour, then wake up for breakfast, and then go to the 11 o'clock mass. And in my head, I'm saying to myself, something's wrong with this picture.
Yes. Remember the way in which we were awakened in the morning at 5:10 or 5:30?
bell.
No, it was a buzzer.
Oh, yeah.
God awful. It sounded like a klaxon horn of a submarine that was ready to submerge.
Yes.
And one day I got a screwdriver and I disconnected it. I said, I can't wake up this way.
These are
I'm
true
like,
confessions.
You jumped right out of the bed. This is crazy. Let's be like some other people that wake up to music maybe or some nice sound.
Oh, no.
Not a god-awful thing scare the hell out of you.
See, and I think that misprepared us for our ministry.
Oh, yeah.
It was okay. Now we have to share some positive things about the seminary. Besides the beauty of the liturgies, were wonderful. Some of the preaching, of course, we had professors who would preach, so that was wonderful. What other good memories do you have?
I'll go back to the camaraderie. It helped
Yeah.
form friendships
Yes.
that have perdured for decades
Yeah.
amongst the clergy that...
Now, how many years you ordained?
44.
44 years. Now I'm ordained 41. And we've kept in touch.
Right.
It's
Over the
wonderful.
years.
It's wonderful. It's more than a fraternity, that we share.
Because we established some lasting relationships
Yeah,
with people,
yeah.
which in the ministry you really have to have them.
Yes. Okay, that's a good point. Let's let our audience know specifically what does that mean, because so many priests are not happy. I'm sure they are happy. On a whole, they are happy, and so many priests have gotten into various kinds of troubles. You spoke about the personal aspect of the ministry. What keeps you whole? Or what do you suggest keeps priests whole?
Well, the first thing is relationship with God. That's
Yes.
the first thing.
Yeah, right.
Which implies we have a good relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
It's like every morning when I get up, I go into the bathroom, drag myself in there, and I look in the mirror and I say, Bob, you're not a hell of a lot, but you're all I've got. And I say to God, okay, what are we going to do today?
Yeah, that's great.
And that kind of begins the openness to the presence of God. It's a very it can be a very spirit-filled experience as a minister, as a parish priest, or whatever ministry we may be involved in, to be open to the presence of God.
And that's important for priests and all Christendom.
Oh, yeah.
To wake up, and I wake up, and I just said basically the same thing, something very similar. Good morning, God, what are we up to today? And I make sure I make my sign of the cross, get myself ready, and spend some time in prayerful reading scriptures or prayer. And it's even before breakfast. I must say I have it with coffee, but it's a way of starting our day that prepares us for whatever's going to happen.
It's what I'm doing now. In my retirement, I retired July 1st of 2015, and I get up in the morning and I have my prayer time. I'll read the scriptures of the day.
Yes.
I'll spend some time with a scriptural rosary. I'll reflect upon a book, Language of Letting Go, which by Melody Beattie is for any of us who have had family members or friends that have had the addictions of alcohol or other addictions or codependent issues. And I sit with that meditation every day too, having experienced that in my own bloodline family, about addiction of alcohol. And then I have some quiet time, and I sit right by an open window in my bedroom, and there's beautiful nature outside. I listen to the birds, the wind, and the pine trees, and just sit in silence. I'm very big into be still, be quiet, and know that I
No,
am.
yeah, beautiful.
Very
beautiful.
very important part of
Beautiful.
my. And then I enter the day, and whatever happens, I go with it.
One day, next to my door, I live in a condo, next to my door going out, there's a little holy water font that I bought in Fatima. And it's empty. I don't keep the water in there, but I keep holy water in a little jar in there. So one day, my nephew comes over, and he's about 10 at that point, and he reaches in and bless himself. He says, Uncle Louis, there's no water. And you're a priest. You got to put water in there. Thank you, Mike, Alec. So what I did, put the little jar of water, and each time I go out, I bless myself, and that prepares me to go out. If I'm going to yoga, if I'm going to teach, if I'm going to with my clients, doesn't matter. I bless myself, and I put myself in the presence of God to go with me.
Right.
Out there, and we need that.
It's one of my personal pet peeves, if you will. We don't spend enough time appreciating original blessings. We have spent so much time and energy focusing on original sin. What about original blessing? I don't mean to sound like Matthew Fox, but that was one of his big things.
Right.
And I agree with that perspective. We spend so much time negating instead of building up.
Yeah.
I recently gave a presentation to the upper room in Neptune. It's a spiritual center.
Right.
And that the title of the presentation was, Because Jesus is Risen, We Are Rising. And it doesn't mean just at the parousia. It means every day we have opportunities to rise with the presence of Christ already within us.
Our lives. Beautiful.
Already within us.
Beautiful. This has been Father Louis Scurti and Father Bob Schecker, and you heard the first part of our talk with the confessions. And then you see, and I hope you hear, the spirituality that every priest has to have in his life. And we, Bob and I, are sharing a little bit of our spirituality with you. Thank you for joining us. Pass this on to your family and friends as we continue the interviews of our classmates of 45 years. God bless you.